Live, the one and only Local 10 News starts right now.
And I'm Christy Kruger in the newsroom. With help for injured veterans, a therapy often used to treat scuba divers at the bends is now being used to help battle-scarred veterans as well. I'll show you how in our HealthCast.
We have seen the many uses of hyperbaric oxygen therapy, from treating serious infections to radiation tissue damage. In today's HealthCast, Local 10 medical specialist Christy Kruger looks at how it is now also helping war veterans.
George is among 1.6 million veterans living here in the state of Florida. Like so many, he suffered the after effects of combat, including complications from several blast concussions.
We had a guy probably like 15, 20 feet from me just boom, blow up, and all I saw was fire and black smoke all around me. I couldn't hear anything when I woke up.
More than just his hearing, the blast led to chronic mental health problems.
I thought I just had PTSD, and the Army heavily medicated me, and then the VA continued, benzodiazepines, psychotropics, and those did nothing but make me worse.
At the point of contemplating suicide, he found salvation through hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
We know now that blast exposure creates a signature injury in the brain different than any other type of concussion.
Physical therapist Raymond Crawley says 20 hyperbaric treatments can lead to an 8-fold increase in the production of healing stem cells.
Why do you have a lung and heart and nose? Well, it's because you need oxygen. And when we put oxygen under pressure, the trick is that when you do that, it pushes the oxygen into the plasma of the water of your blood. And that's how we save diabetic wounds that used to cause amputations.
Amid data showing that 22 soldiers every day are killing themselves, Crawley is pushing hard to have hyperbaric oxygen therapy covered for veterans with blast concussions.
It was the best treatment. It was the only treatment that I've had that actually I've seen positive results out of.
And hyperbaric oxygen therapy is generally considered a safe procedure and complications are rare, but a doctor's prescription is necessary prior to being able to get this kind of treatment. With your HealthCast, very encouraging stuff. I'm Christy Kruger.
Well, good afternoon. My name's Pat Maney. I'm just another broken soldier, and I want to thank the Navy League for sponsoring this event. This is a huge step forward for those of us who have experienced traumatic brain injury. I was a general, a reserve general who was mobilized and deployed to Afghanistan. I was there for 17 months. I got blown up, as they said. My bell was rung on August 21st, 2005. I spent almost the next 20 months at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. Under the Army regulations, you can only be broken for a year, and then they kick you out. So I had been there about a year when a friend of mine suggested I try hyperbaric oxygen. Now, when I tell you I'm broken, let me take just a moment to kind of describe that. I was awake, I could walk, I could talk with some hesitation, but I basically looked okay. The problem, of course, is the brain is inside the head and not outside. Or maybe that's a good thing, but that's the way we're built. And my wife literally led me around everywhere I went. I couldn't remember how to go places, what I was supposed to do when I got there. I couldn't carry on conversations. There were these long, pregnant pauses while I tried to find words. One time she took me, always leading me, to the commissary. And you know how you get to the end of the aisle and turn and go down another aisle? She turned and I didn't see her turn, and I was lost. I literally stood there because I couldn't figure out how to solve that problem and go somewhere else. One time I was at the Bethesda Naval Hospital gas station, pulled up, got out of the car, opened the gas cap, put the nozzle in, and had no idea how to pump gas from a self-service pump. I was in uniform, so you can imagine the surprise of the lady on the other side of the pump when I asked her how to turn on the gas pump. But that's what a brain injury does. You can look all right. You can kind of function. You can walk and talk, maybe. But you're not there. And hyperbaric oxygen has totally turned that around for me. A doctor friend suggested that I receive treatment at George Washington Medical Center here in Washington. And, you know, what Admiral Fanning didn't say is in civilian life, I have a job as a judge. I'm an elected judge. And I knew that I was not only losing my Army career, but I was going to lose my civilian career because I couldn't function. So hyperbaric allowed me to go back to work. And I kind of, because of my personal experience, I saw and was able to recognize litigants and defendants who came before me who had traumatic brain injury. And I started looking into our jail population. Over 10% of the county jail in the county where I live are veterans. And I noticed that many of those had traumatic brain injury from, not just from this war. We had one that had been shot in the head in Panama. And of course, at the time of the Noriega, the time we removed Noriega in Panama in 1989, there wasn't a diagnosis for traumatic brain injury. I say that only because we've got many, many, many people in our society with traumatic brain injury. Many soldiers, even from this war, who are not diagnosed. And it just seems to me very important for all of us to try to join this coalition for hyperbaric oxygen. When I had hyperbaric, it's cumulative, you know. You don't notice any difference after any one treatment. Yeah, you get up and you leave. But the cumulative effect is amazing. After about 8 dives, 8 treatments, my wife thought she noticed I was getting better, but she didn't say anything because she wanted me to get better and she was afraid she was seeing something because she wanted it, not because it was real. After about 12 dives, I started thinking I was getting better, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to raise my wife's hope. After about 20 dives, people who knew me before the injury and people who knew me after the injury started saying, "You look better. You're more engaged. You're talking in sentences and paragraphs." And that was a major difference. I mean, I've always been a reader. I couldn't read a paragraph and know what the first sentence was by the time I got to the last sentence. I couldn't balance a checkbook. I could write a check, but I had no idea what the numbers were, how to do simple subtraction. I couldn't concentrate long enough to watch a television show, so I would channel surf all the time. Drove my wife crazy. I couldn't sleep, so I was up at 2 or 3 in the morning. That also drove my wife crazy. So I guess part of that story is hyperbaric oxygen made my wife's life much better. And I think it's important, and I think some of the people here on this panel will tell you that a lot of these situations have 2 sides. The patient's side with its frustrations and the caregiver's side with its frustrations. And when hyperbaric oxygen does its magic, the frustrations go back to normal and diminish. So thank you for coming, and thanks to the Navy League for having this, and I hope everybody will consider learning more about hyperbaric and joining this really crusade, this critical crusade to take care of America's wounded warriors.
If it can help, if it may help, I'm in.
There is a process and a treatment to help our soldiers and our Marines and our Navy. When they have PTSD, when they have TBI, and it's called hyperbaric oxygen treatment.
Approach me with this idea or that in terms of how to treat TBI or PTSD. But I will tell you, I have seen none out there that I'm more encouraged by than what I would call at this point the ad hoc results of hyperbaric treatment. Forward, those Marines suffering that we thought might be suicidal, to get them into a treatment regimen, because it can't hurt, it can only help. And so even in those cases, we're encouraged by some of the things that we're seeing. So we think that we're onto something here.
There's no natural healing that continues past the 5-year mark. They say they'll see some natural healing, you've heard it called neuroplasticity, and it will occur for the first few years naturally after a traumatic brain injury. But they'll tell you that after 2 or 3 years, but definitely after 5 years, there is no expectation of further healing. They do not see it. So when I retired from the Army, more than 5 years after my injury, I was told that there was no expectation that my brain would ever improve, that my symptoms would ever get better, and that my goal was to accept this new normal of who I was. 1 year ago, I lived with chronic disabling pain from post-concussive headaches, frustrating and limiting cognitive impairments, emotional instability, and an emotional numbness that left feelings like love and happiness as hazy memories of a distant past. And after years of drugs, treatments, and therapies, I had no more hope. Today I have reason to hope and dream.